Here is the bare minimum you need to know to get recording a live screen capture like this coming up. This video was inspired by Harry, who asked how I do my live screen capture videos like this. So I just want to show you really the bare minimum you need to know to get it up and running, to just really start any project, because it can get very complicated, but it doesn't really need to be complicated. So let's just start with this. What I like to do is you need some type of encoding software. At least this is the way I like to do things. And I use OBS Studio. There's OBS Classic, there's OBS Studio, there's XSplit. There's a lot of different types of programs, but currently my favorite is OBS Studio. And I don't know everything you need to know about how to run this. If you just look at it, there are a ton of features. There's a lot of flexibility in what you can do, and there's a lot of complicated stuff, and that's why this video is going to be the bare minimum you need to know to just get up and running to get your videos, because let's be real, this kind of stuff can be really, really intimidating, and as powerful as it is, we just want to create some videos sometimes that are just simple and just straight to the point. So this is what I would do. So here is OBS Studio, obsproject.com, or you can just search OBS Studio, and then you just want to click whichever download button that is your iOS that you are using for your computer. So if you're on a Mac, Linux, Windows, obvious. You go through the installation. All right, so what we're going to do is we're going to open up OBS Studio now that it's been installed. So this is just one of my templates. What we're going to do is we're going to add a new scene. So what happens is a new scene is actually what you're going to be displaying, right? So we will call this for recording. So this is my new scene. You can have multiple scenes. So as you can see, I have different scenes for depending on what I want to do. And yeah, you can just make a ton of them. It's really, really nice, really, really easy. So we're gonna go back to for recording scene. This is what we made. You're gonna have a scene right here, and you can have multiple scenes within this the scene collection. So we're gonna rename this into something useful. We'll call this screen cap with webcam, right? So we want to do a screen capture. So the easiest way to do a screen capture is with the display capture on. So what happens is we're going to call this display capture. What this means is it's going to capture monitor. So we're going to say monitor 2, and depending on which display you want, I have 2 monitors here. We're going to capture this. So we're going to say display 0, which is my second monitor. This looks really ugly because it's actually displaying exactly what's on monitor 2. So I have OBS Studio full screen, so that's why you see this endless mirror, right? Then we're gonna add webcam. So we're gonna do a video capture device. This video capture device we're gonna call webcam, because we want to always name it something useful. So depending on what the default is, you're gonna get this, right? So right now, this is not an aspect ratio that is widescreen, but that's okay. Sometimes you just want a nice square. You don't need a wide cinematic view. But let's say I actually do want a wide cinematic view. We're gonna go to properties here. You're gonna have your webcam selected. And instead of default device default, we're gonna go to custom. We're gonna change the resolution to whatever we want. So we're gonna do a typical widescreen. With the FPS, it's all gonna depend on what your computer is able to do, what it's able to record, and what other things you're gonna be doing as you record. So let's just set it at 30. 30 is simple. It's not gonna look the prettiest, but it'll be fine. You can change to the highest match output of FPS, highest FPS, whatever you want, whatever you need. We're gonna set it at 30. And that's pretty much all you need to worry about right here. Let's say you wanted to mess with your webcam settings. You can go to configure video. And this is actually messing with my webcam, whatever it is. So I'm using a Logitech HD Pro webcam C920. And let's say I wanted to zoom in and move around. I could do that. I could have it autofocus or not. I could change the exposure. Let's turn this off. Oh, let's turn off the auto. Oh, that's not good. Oh, that's overexposed. We'll just do auto. And again, this all depends on like what webcam you're using, right? A mirrored might be interesting that you might want to use, but we're not going to change any settings there. That's pretty much it for your webcam. That's all you need. So we're going to put my webcam in this corner right here because that's where I usually put it. If you want to put it here, you can put it here, wherever you want to put it. If you wanted to, You could even crop your webcam by using transform, edit transform, and see this. You can change the crop right here. So if I did like 200, you can see it cropped it there. It made this red line green because that means it's been cropped there. Again, I don't know why you could just change the aspect ratio, but let's say I wanted to get rid of my dirty desk. It might, or dirty background, it might be something you might be interested in doing. Most likely it's not for your webcam. Most likely you want to do this for whatever you're recording. Let's say for example, a Skype interview, you might want to crop out the different webcams, right? So we're going to go to, another thing you can do is see these red corners, which I showed you before. You can use that to resize it. Even this, I can resize this. It's going to keep its aspect ratio. But let's say if I had an overlay, some fancy thing like this one, I can actually have I can move this camera a little bit to fit my overlay, right? But again, we're getting a little fancier, probably more than you need to know for this video. So we're going to go back to for recording. So this is what we have. Another thing you cannot forget, and I probably should have added this first, audio input capture. So input is anything you're putting into the computer. So that would be my microphone right here. You're going to add mic. We're going to say my mic right here. You're going to select whatever you're using. And here is a mixer. Let's extend this a little bit. Here is a mixer right here. So I can change the volume right here. I can mute myself. Even the webcam. So I don't actually want my webcam recording. I have my webcam mic disabled, but you might actually want to mute it for if you have it, if you see the waves going up and down for the webcam. You don't want to be recording from your webcam mic unless that's all you have, then that's what you have. You have to do what you have to work with what you are given. That's very, very important. Let's say I have desktop audio. Let's say I'm playing a video on YouTube. I also want to add an audio output capture because anything coming from a computer to me is considered an audio output. It's a little tricky, confusing, but we're going to just say, we're going to call this desktop audio because that's what we'll hear from my desktop. And so my speakers are actually through you're going to select whatever your speaker is. Most likely the default is okay. So therefore, if I have desktop audio, let's say I play a YouTube video.
I kind of, I feel like,
So you can see my desktop audio waves are going up and down, right? And again, this is kind of tricky. What you can see is since I'm capturing from my monitor, you can see everything that's on this monitor. So you can see OBS in this tiny little corner right here. And then you can see my browser that's up here, right? And again, we can make this full screen if we want to center it. If we want to move it, so we can move this around. There are some more ways to move this thing. We can flip it horizontally if we wanted to. We could fit to screen, whatever you want to do, right? You could center to screen. Make sure that's centered. Let's say if I want to put this webcam in the center for some reason. Center to screen, right? So we're going to put it back in the corner. So this is a bit confusing. Instead of using the monitor, we're going to just actually add an image overlay just to make it a little easier to look at the moment. So what we'll do is we'll just take a background image. Let's say this right here. So this is a bit easier to look at than my OBS. But my overlay covers up everything I have done. You can't see my face anymore, my beautiful face. So what ends up happening is that you can move these things up and down, right? So if I want my monitor on top, there you go. If I want my overlay on top, there you go. If I want my webcam on top of my overlay, I must put it over there. And ta-da, here I am. So this is a lot easier to work with. This is a lot of flexibility to work with, and that's how you deal with overlays and background images. Now let's say I want to add text. I want to put my Twitter handle on here. So we're going to put Twitter handle because that's going to be useful. You can select font. This is a typical font setup that you see. You can select I'm going to put at justcasual9. And then this Twitter handle is up here. I can stretch it. It gets really pixelated. So you want to enlarge the font if you want to get bigger. But I would even suggest going into Photoshop and creating a text file and make it into a picture, because that's going to look a lot nicer if you want to do that. Again, that makes it a little more difficult or a little more complex. So we're going to create a Twitter icon here. I know I have a Twitter picture, Twitter logo. Bam. That came in big. I'm going to move this around. We're going to add that right here. This is pretty ugly, but this is what we have. So now let's say I want to make a new scene because I want to go full screen. So full screen webcam. We're going to add another source. We're going to do video capture device. And look, we already made the webcam scene. So there we go. It's right there. And it's actually a full screen, which is kind of nice. So now I have a full screen webcam. Let's say I wanted to make this, except I want to get my face out of the way because my face is covering up stuff that I want to show, right? So I can actually duplicate this. And we're going to say screen cap, no cam, no webcam. And what I can do is I can delete it. I could turn it off. I could just remove it. So that's, and then I can actually move this around and put it at the top corner, right? So then as I click through these scenes, you can see it changing. And there's a nice transition fade right here. You can do cut. You can do a fade. You can change the duration of the fade. Let's say 1,000 milliseconds. So that's just 1 second. Make it 300. Really simple stuff. And then I can also, if I'm highlighted in here, I can use my arrow key to move up and down. Simple. So that is that. We'll go to settings. So that is how you set up scenes. There's a few more things you might need in here. You could do a game capture or a window capture, which would actually capture a specific window that you have open. But you can play around with that and figure out how to do that as well. If you have any questions, let me know. Okay, so now let's look at settings to make sure your recording is set up correctly. This is very overwhelming, a lot of information. And if you're trying to stream, I would really suggest looking up a different video and just figuring out how to stream because those guys know a lot more than I do. We're just talking about the bare minimum to get you set up and started if you're trying to do one of these kind of videos. So what I would actually start with is going to the output. So this is streaming, again, not very important. So for this video, we're just gonna stay in the simple window. It's really all you need. Streaming, again, if you're streaming, look up a different video. Let's just look at the recording. You can select your recording path where you want all your stream videos to be. I created a new folder called Stream Videos. You could generate a file name without space if you want. That's just how you want the file name. This is really important here. Now, recording quality, I keep it high quality, medium file size. You could do lossless quality, which would be a large file size. Just play around with this, see what you would like. I probably should be recording this way for these tutorials. That would probably be smart, especially because these are going to be smaller videos. When I stream, I have this automatically actually set up where every stream I do, it would record. So that's why I do a medium file size. Recording format, I think it defaults to FLV. Not very friendly, especially if you're editing stuff afterwards in Premiere Pro. MP4, that's the way to go. Encoder, whatever. Yeah, you really don't need to change much, right? So just make sure, this is probably the biggest things. These three are the things that you really, really need to set. Again, streaming, you can ignore unless you're streaming. If we want to look at audio, if you want to change your sample rate, I just keep this at mono. It just keeps things simple. Things can happen wrong when you're using stereo where the audio might be only recorded to the left ear or the right ear. You don't want that. That's really annoying for a listener. So just keep it at mono unless you're trying to get fancy. And yeah, desktop audio, you don't, again, worry about this unless you're having multiple audio channels. So just keep it all disabled. If you want push to talk, and if you want to delay with that, here it is. Again, I don't think you need that. Video, I would record it as best as you can, depending on the resolution of your computer. Or most likely it should be 1920 by 1080. That is HD. That's just standard high quality HD. FPS might be important. You might want to go up to 60 if you can. Otherwise, maybe 30 or 29.97. Probably 60. Yeah, and that's pretty much it. That's all you really need to do with your settings. It's not that difficult. It's not that fancy. Again, this is just a bare minimum. So that's pretty much it for the screen recording tutorial, live sharing your desktop. Let me know if you have any other questions, especially you, Harry, because you suggested this. And yeah, again, there are more tutorials out there. Just Google them and YouTube them on how to use OBS Studio, and they will give you enough insight if you want to start streaming on these platforms. All right, thanks.